This is a Manet. It's also called Guerre sans Lésère, sometimes called Chemin de Fer. It has two titles, okay? But I'd like to stay with it, partly because I think that it is a profound critique of a piece of modernity. I'm going to give you a preface to this. One of the two people who tried to make me a historian was one undergraduate teacher whose name was Joan Kelly. Okay, Joan Kelly is a Renaissance historian, did works on Leon Battista Alberti and others. And some years after I had her as a student, Professor Kelly wrote one of those articles that changed the whole way people perceive it. The title of the article will tell you what it's about. She's a Renaissance historian. Did women have a Renaissance? The American Historical Association's prize for feminism, I'm talking to my colleague Mark Stein, who's a US historian, is named the Joan Kelly Award, okay? And she said, did women have a Renaissance? Here is this women Renaissance historian studying this profound culture, and her answer was, no, at least not in the Renaissance. that is, in fact, she argued in this article, and it's a profound article, and again, the women's studies stuff. It's a profound article in the history of women's studies, because it changed the way people saw things, okay? She argued that in fact, women's condition may have been worse during the Renaissance than it was before or in the 18th century as a hypothesis. Very interesting article, okay, whatever you do with it, but it makes you re-see. Okay, so what's the Renaissance? Another white male thing? Yes. Another white male bourgeois banker thing? Yes. And so on. I mean, she loved the Renaissance and said it did wondrous things. We discovered the individual, wonderful art. But did it change the status of women? If it did, Joan argued, it changed it backward rather than forward. Now, I'm asking the same question of this painting. Okay? Did women have modernity in the 19th century? You are aware, of course, that women could vote. No, sorry. Okay. That women could take part in politics. Sorry. That women could sign contracts without a male, usually their husband or father, co-signing the contracts. No. Okay. That is, none of this existed. Okay. John Stuart Mill wrote in his wonderful work, The Subjection of Women, that the stupidest male in England, who might be a football lout and so on, thinks himself more important and more significant than half of the population of England just because he has a penis. That is, that the socialization of stuff then. Now, what's going on in this painting? Guerre sans Lésère, a woman, 30-ish, 30s or so, a girl. Manet did not comment on this, by the way. So it's interesting, okay? She, I would argue, is probably a governess. That is, given her dress, it's a day dress, could be the mother, but unlikely, but probably, but certainly in charge of the young child. There is smoke. She is looking out at us again. Here we go again, okay? And this young woman is looking behind bars, okay, behind bars, and the smoke now obfuscates the train. It doesn't give it an adventure. It makes it foggy. You can't get there. And they are behind bars. In other words, the Guerre sans Lésère might be for some people, but it is not for them. They have to observe it rather than experience it. This is very significant, it seems to me. I'll tell you, he gives us two big clues, and they are in the lap of the woman I'm calling the governess, okay? One is the lapdog, okay? I don't have to tell you. You know that the dog is a symbol of domesticity. The dog is a symbol of fidelity. That's why they named them Fido. Okay, a little Latin goes a long way, folks. Okay, all right, okay, okay, and a symbol of loyalty. But dogs are not cats, if I can try that on you. Okay, That is, you know, the cat permits you to live in its house and feed it, okay? Okay, but the Obama dog is a different symbol, okay? If you watch the front page of the New York Times has Obama with his dog today, and so on. Okay. Secondly, the book, very significant. Okay, she reads. Of course she reads. She's literate. She's a governess, a teacher, or somebody who's in charge of the child. Okay? I'm going to argue that the book is meant to represent how it is that women voyage prior to the feminist movement. We all right with this so far? Okay, I'm looking at faces. Okay, the notion is that women, my notion is, and what others are there, okay, this is scholarship. That is, the notion is that women voyage via the book and have inner voyage rather than the experience of the outer voyage, okay? Jane Austen's heroines, as a hypothesis in the early 19th century, Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, if you've read them recently or seen any one of the 700 PBS productions, okay? There are these women sitting crocheting, okay? 5 daughters, crocheting and reading books, waiting for somebody who looks like Colin Firth and has 10,000 pounds a year, okay, to come and rescue them, all right? But they can't go out and hunt. They wait. Okay, they can't have the adventure. They're not permitted at that particular time. And may I add, they're not permitted until recently, and in some places, they're not permitted. Okay, this is a relatively new phenomenon. And so she, of course, undertakes the voyage that many women undertake, which is the silent voyage. By the way, the other voyage in literature, just as a footnote, is the dream. That is, that the other voyage in literature is that women go to sleep, okay, not simply to be kissed by some frog who becomes a prince or something of that sort, okay, but you go on a voyage. The most important book in the English language of this sort is one published just about that time, and it's called Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. And it is a great, capital G, may I add, novel. And Alice falls asleep in the arms of her sister and sees the following kinds of things and falls through a hole and goes to Wonderland, to an alternate universe, okay? And then she wakes up at the end of it in the arms of her sister, and she says, I've had a curious dream, as she says. Okay, but the interpretation is she has her tests and her trials in the dream rather than the way Ulysses has his tests and trials by going out and for 20 years and expecting his wife, his dog, and his son to still be there, okay, when he returns. Now, this is a profound comment that he's making, because I think what Manet is suggesting here is, and I buy it, of course, as a historian, is that women don't have modernity until a much later period. In other words, it's not until the women's movement arises, first wave, second wave, third wave, okay, that women begin to get the privileges of modernity, and many women will tell you they still don't have them fully, and I'll buy that as well. Okay, there are ceilings and so on and so forth. But for 1870s, this is an extraordinary comment, it seems to me.